In the coming days, we should expect an increase in the activity of the Russian troops and be prepared for the appearance of numerous information, provocations and reports of fictitious victories of the Russian forces. This was warned by the chairman of the Council of Reservists of the Ground Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Ivan Timochko, reports Espreso. According to him, the Russians hope to push the Ukrainian armed forces out of the Kursk region, and it appears that the enemy's activity in the Kharkov and Sumy regions will also increase. The enemy continues to implement plans to create a so-called sanitary zone in the Kharkiv region, which have now entered an active phase, said Timochko. He added that the Russians are now taking risks and pulling their resources to the front lines, probably fearing a weakening of their own positions, which could trigger a counteroffensive by the Ukrainian Armed Forces. This tactic may be connected with the fear of the Russians regarding possible local operations by Ukraine, similar to the one carried out in the Belgorod region. This forces them to pull all available forces and equipment to the front. On the other hand, they fear that the Ukrainian armed forces can carry out a military operation anywhere in the border territories of Russia. This may weaken the position of the Russian Federation in the international arena during the negotiation processes, Timochko noted. Let us recall that recently Russia accused Ukraine of attempting to wedge itself into the Belgorod region. According to them, the defense forces have begun to move equipment and personnel to the section of the border where Belgorod and Kursk regions collide in order to break through to the Krasnoyarsk region. As military observer Denis Popovich noted, there are no signs yet that the Ukrainian armed forces are expanding the Kursk operation to the territory of the Belgorod region of the Russian Federation. We can only state the beginning of fighting in the Belgorod border zone without deep advancement into the region's territory. Is this a new operation, recalling how it was in the Kursk region? There are no such signs yet. The information is very general. Fog of war. We can only state the beginning of fighting in the Belgorod border zone without deep advancement into the region's territory. Is this a new operation, recalling how it was in the Kursk region? So far, there are no signs, he said. As Popovich recalled, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had previously said that these were preventive measures. There was a concentration of Russian troops there, so we carried out preventive strikes. It should be understood that these are the Belgorod region and the Kharkiv region which border each other. We heard from Zelensky that the Russian Federation could launch an offensive in the Kharkiv region, in Donbass and Zaporozhye. I think these are preventive actions to prevent the enemy from launching new offensive actions in the Kharkiv region to create a buffer zone there, the military observer noted.
At least 3 people were killed, including a 5-year-old child, after Russia launched a barrage of drones targeting Kiev overnight on Sunday, according to local Ukrainian officials and emergency services. There is no point in talking to Russia, Kiev resident Ihor Vasilchenko said, who lives in one of the damaged apartment buildings. He said any agreement with the Russian not worth the cost of the paper where you put your signature. Russia is not afraid of anything, Vasilchenko added. According to Associated Press, the attack on the Ukrainian capital came ahead of ceasefire negotiations in Saudi Arabia, in which Ukraine and Russia are expected to hold indirect US-mediated talks on Monday to discuss a pause in long-range attacks targeting energy facilities and civilian infrastructure. The Ukrainian delegation is expected to meet with US officials in Saudi Arabia a day ahead of the indirect talks, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said. Ukraine is planning to send technical teams to discuss the details of the partial ceasefire. Extended sounds of explosions were heard in the early hours of Sunday as the air raid blared for over 5 hours. Russian drones and debris from shot-down drones, which were flying at lower altitudes to evade air defenses, fell on residential buildings. At night, the rumble of an approaching Shahid drone was heard. All I could do was pray that it would fly somewhere else, Yulia Dunaeva, a mother of two, said while waiting outside a newly built apartment building which was also hit by the overnight attack. According to Ukraine's Kyiv City Military Administration, 3 people were killed, and 10 others were injured. Residential buildings in the districts of Dnipro and Podol caught fire, while in Holosivsky, another fire broke out in a warehouse and office building, killing people. I have bad feelings. I don't want this to go on, it shall end with negotiations, another Kiev resident, Dmytro Zapadnya said. We hope that everything will end and there will be peace in our country, he added.
Ну, я можу сказати єдине, що давно було сказано, з Росією немає якогось сенсу розмовляти, тому що вони завжди брешуть. Що вони не обіцяли, це тільки обіцянки. Ніколи вони не будуть дотримуватись все, що вони казали. І це вже не один десяток і сотень років, як це кажуть, що немає сенсу з ними нічого підписувати, тому що це не буде коштувати, вартувати навіть тої бумаги, на якому це буде всі договори підписуватись. Ну, єдине, що не дуже приємно, що зараз Сполучені Штати так якось, ну, мабуть, не дуже розуміють нашу ситуацію. Я розумію, що миру як такого не буде, тому що, дивіться, немає гарантій. Росія нічого не боїться.
Вночі близько 1-ї години було чути гул наближаючого шахеда. Я вже чітко відчувала, що він летить прямісінько до нашого будинку по звуку. Залишалося тільки молитися, щоб десь пролетів повз.
Погані відчуття і не дуже хочеться, щоб це все продовжувалося. Хай вже завершується, не знаю, перемовинами. Ну, в будь-якому випадку, напевно, ж должно воно завершитися якимись перемовинами. Ну, чекаємо, що ми можемо зробити. Надіємося, що все закінчиться і буде мир у нас в країні.